Show me your bits.
Hello and welcome to the second episode of my podcast, Show Me Your Bits, where we're going to be talking to my favourite comedians about their favourite bits. We're going to look at the bits and then we're going to analyse them and talk to our comedians about them. And today we have the wonderful Steve N. Allen, who is a brilliant stand-up comedian. He is a brilliant comedy writer. He is also on the BBC's MASH report. And most importantly, he is a lovely person. So I'm really looking forward to this. And he should be waiting in the waiting room to come in now. So let's just see if he's there. Here he is.
Hello.
Here he is. So welcome to our second episode of the podcast, Show Me Your Bits. And
Nice to be here.
I should ask, how are you?
Still alive, which is a win these days, isn't it? You know, I've not caught anything that's coronavirus related, and you can't catch anything else either. So actually, there are many positives. Yeah, I'm happy. I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
I'm good. But we're not here for idle chit chat, Steve N. Allen. We have got business to do. So we've got business to do. We're going to watch your bits. Now, when I sent you an email asking if you would show me your bits, I hope you did not misunderstand the email.
Spam filter sorted that out. It was the second email that I actually understood. So it was going to happen.
But it worked. So I'm going to share my screen with you now. And we are going to watch your bits, so to speak. Okay, ready? We're going to watch it together. Okay. Go.
You do have to be careful, because what happens a lot is there'll be some sort of scandal, and it's often like a celeb has done a threesome, and I'll tell you what they're doing wrong there. They're not thinking it through, are they? Because if you do a threesome, there are two witnesses to sell that story to the papers. So that's why if ever I do anything that's a little bit sexually adventurous, I'm always on my own. So my theory is, right, if I'm not allowed to do threesomes, then you shouldn't be either. And this is where, hopefully you don't mind, but I'm gonna use maths to help you not do threesomes anymore, right? Don't worry if you can't see this. This is just to help me explain it. So this is my diagram of twosome sex. I believe you can see it on the screens if you can notice. So two people having sex, there's one sex act. So you know what you're doing. You get it right. You have a good time, right? You can remember that, yeah? Good. Now, if you do the threesome that the young people are into, all right, there's my diagram of the threesome. Kept his glasses on? You would, wouldn't you? Because you're having a look. I see. If there's then three people involved, there are three different sex acts. So you've added one person, but you've made it 3 times more complicated. That is not worth the effort, is it? Now, if you want to go crazy and advanced level, there's the foursome. Then there are 6 possible sex acts. I can tell by the looks on your faces, you're a clever audience. You're thinking, Steve, we could be here all night. You're just making a list. Cut to the chase. How many sex acts are there in an n-sum where n is a positive integer belonging to the real set? I'm glad you asked. S, the number of sex acts equals n times n minus 1 over 2, because in a bed of n people, all n of them have sex with all n of them. You've double counted, so it's over 2. Here's my favourite question. Can anyone tell me why it's not n squared? It's n times n minus 1. Am I in the wrong gig? What the fuck? Someone's got an idea over there? What was it? Because of the glasses, no. What are you trying to fuck? I don't know. You should have got to Specsavers. No, you fucking shouldn't. It's because you don't have sex with yourself. Indeed, I'll go a step further. If you've been invited to take part in an n-sum and you stood there and had a wank, you missed the point. N, the number of people equals the number of men plus the number of women. Now, we've all been in that situation where maybe some alcohol has been consumed and it's going to happen. And then one of the blokes will say something like, oh, I'll do it, but I'm not going to touch the other blokes. When the men are like that, it makes the maths so much more complicated. Because then it's n times n minus 1 minus m times n minus 1. The sex acts they won't do, still all over 2. Let's remember that n still equals m plus w, so let's substitute that in. You can expand the brackets, you can start cancelling it off. I can tell by the looks on your faces, you're all way ahead of me right now. So yeah, the answer is the number of sex acts equals a half women squared plus man times woman minus half a woman. Maybe a short one, like yourself. I don't know how it works. But what I can tell you is if you travel around different gigs showing people you're good at this kind of maths, it does not get you any more sex. What it does get you is a weird email, right? This is the modern day world. Anyone can track you down on the internet. I did a gig one night, woke up the next morning to find an email from someone. I've written it out so I can read it to you. So I got this email from this woman. Let's call her Helen, because that was her name. And she said, "Dear Steve, I was at the show last night and wanted to email to say how much I enjoy the sex maths, as I have always liked maths. The problem I have is to do with holes." We're all painfully aware this is early in the evening for this, but here we go. Women have 3, mouth, bum, front bum. Men have 2, mouth and bum. Women have 2 types of things to engage with holes, mouth and hands. Men have 3, mouth, hands, knob. Taking that complication into consideration, can you work out how many sex acts are possible? Regards, Helen. Well, Helen. No, I'm not a fucking weirdo. Cheers.
So, Stephen Allen, how do you feel? Sorry to make you watch that. I know some comics don't like watching themselves back, and that was probably a while ago when we were gigging regularly. How do you feel watching it? Was it uncomfortable?
It's actually a mixture of both. So I never like seeing myself. It always feels weird. It looks weird to see myself, and I'm overcritical about every single part of me. I noticed it looks like I'm wearing the same shirt. That was a green shirt. It's just the video doesn't show the colours enough, and this is a blue. So different.
I didn't notice that, but now you put it out. Yes, Stephen Allen.
It looks like I've only got one shirt. But it was really weird to see me doing stand-up, because it's been so long now, and there's so much about it that I really miss, like that interaction. Because we're all doing comedy stuff these days, video things, whatever. But the thing you don't get is that moment of like, I paused, and then there was a sound, and that was laughter. I'm starting to forget what that feels like. There are many gigs where that never happens anyway, but by God, I miss it. Yeah, so it was emotional.
You're being modest. Like, I've seen you at many gigs and you often get lots of laughter. So I think you're being a little bit modest.
Very kind of you.
Oh, it's true. But it was a great bit. So we're gonna talk about the bit. When was that recorded? Because we haven't gigged for a while because of the corona virus, obviously. When was that gig recorded?
I think it was last summer, so last July, something like that. I can't fully remember, because to be fair, I've been doing that bit for a while now. But I think that was a summer gig. So
nearly a year ago today.
Yeah.
No, where are we, mate? Yeah, whatever. Time is.
Who knows?
Time doesn't exist. No, but that was a great bit. But the first question I have about that is, despite being really bad at math, obviously I was laughing the whole way through. So firstly, I want to ask you, is the maths real? Because you're good at maths.
Yeah, it is definitely real. And in fact, on an early version of it, I forgot to divide by 2, and I was just bothered all evening. The fact that I showed them the wrong thing, because I've had different books, because the books always end up breaking. And when I first started doing it, I used to have a screen by me, because I did it at different kind of gigs. And the fact that I got that bit wrong once, so I've got the kind of mind where I need the details to be correct. I'm a little bit, heading towards the OCD type things. So yes, that is good, proper maths. And the question that the woman poses at the end, I still can't answer. And I've worked on that for a while.
It was that. So let's go. Was that a genuine question? Are you being serious? I thought you just added that as a joke at the end. But you serious? A woman seriously wrote that question to you?
Yeah, she didn't phrase it like that. So I rewrote it to have the laughs out of the silly words for parts. But it was a Tuesday night gig, and she wasn't called Helen, but it was this Italian woman came to the gig and then said, like, have you thought about this? That there are different ways of doing it. I was like, okay, she's got a good point. Tried to work on the maths, and then did it in an Edinburgh show where some people came along and they were like PhD people saying, yeah, you got a problem there. You need graph theory or something. So it's I did an A-level. It's not like I'm Mr. Maths or anything, but most of that maths is just kind of GCSE, slightly A-level-y, but it doesn't matter if you get the maths. The whole point of it is that, no one needs to know whether the maths is right or not. It's just, why the hell is this guy doing way too much maths about sex? That's the only gag in the whole thing, really.
Yeah, but it's very clever how you, I'd imagine I thought you knew the maths, because I would imagine it's a very difficult joke to write. if you didn't know the maths. And also, I know you, and you're quite nerdy, so I thought definitely that's good if the maths. The maths is correct, probably. What I'm kind of impressed with, I'm very impressed with. Sorry, kind of. I'm a bit impressed.
What you're slightly impressed by? Yep, carry on.
Impressed with. No, what I'm very impressed with is how do you make something that's really technical like that? Because it is. You say it's A level, but it is quite technical. Most people, like the layman, shall we say, layman, wouldn't really get that. The maths wouldn't get the maths, but it's still really funny throughout. So you obviously have a difficult job in making the maths that people don't get funny.
I think part of the joke is that people don't get it. I made a mistake when like one of the versions of me doing it, I'd only do it if I was at a gig where I thought, this is the kind of audience that'll get what I'm doing with this maths. And it didn't work as well as when you go to a place and you think, no one's going to get this. And therefore no one's going to expect it. So you get this bubbling along laugh of, God, he's still going. And that's my favorite laugh out of it. Because I did it, there was a gig in Oxford where they had PhD researchers doing stand-up, and at the end they'd book an act, and I was the act that they booked, and at the end I did that. And for them, they were just underwhelmed. They were like, well, obviously, that's how good they were at the maths. They were like, yeah, why is this guy even wasting our time? Whereas a gig where they ain't going to get the maths, that's where the laughs are.
Oh, that's interesting. So it kind of went the opposite way. So you thought, because I would have thought that would have been funnier to an audience who got the maths. But it was really, really funny, even without getting the maths. So I thought, well, it's just going to be extra funny to like people who are mathematicians, because that's just their thing. But what you're saying is it was the opposite. They were just like, and S is whatever, minus N plus, well, I can't remember what you said.
That's the thing. They'd solved it early doors. So the bit where I say, does anyone know why it's not n squared? They all did. They were like, of course it's not n squared, because you don't count yourself. I'm like, oh, yeah, I normally say that bit. All right.
Oh, no. So how did you deal with that? With them just not playing along? Was it just a bad gig?
Well, the good thing about it is it stops being maths towards the end, doesn't it? It is then just a list of silly words for body parts. Yeah. And it resolves in nothing other than all of the pressure I've built up. Like, why is this guy doing so much maths about sex? And then when I'm asked a question about it, just the full 180 kind of, who's going to do that maths, you weirdo emailing? So people still, laugh out loud for those release of pressure moments and, reversal of expectation moments. So I think it's still got that in it, but I did have to whip through the maths going, you're not going to care about this bit.
Oh, that's interesting. So, but how did you start to write it? Because for me, when I'm looking at it, I might be wrong, but it looks like it's kind of 3 separate bits that you've worked on. So, like the first joke is about having sex on your own and how you shouldn't have a threesome in case the media. I'm basically messing up your jokes here, but. How everyone's seen it. So like that's the first bit about how you shouldn't have sex because you might get caught. And then it's like the proper maths, which is like a really intricate bit of writing there. And then it's like the second part of that, which is the woman who wrote you an email, which I thought you'd made up, but obviously not. How did you go about writing the whole thing? Did you divide it into bits, or was it like you just sat down and wrote it all?
No, it grew, very much grew. So originally it was just the maths bit in the middle, and most of my material, well, not most, but lots of my material happens like this, that I ended up, so before the coronavirus, I had a job writing topical jokes for the radio, and I used to do gigs in London every Tuesday, but me and some friends would just do topical stuff. So once a week, I'd have to write, we only need to write like 10 minutes of new stuff, and then we'd, mess with the audience a bit and then do some other stuff. So 10 minutes of new topical material every week was a bit of a challenge. And I actually remember this. I was on the train, got on at Finchley, had to get off at Waterloo. And in the paper, I read some story about some pointless survey, how many Brits have done threesomes. And I got the notebook out and I was like, oh, this is like the handshakes thing. So the whole maths is like how many people can shake hands. It's a thing you do at school where they say, okay, if there are N number of people, how many handshakes will there be? And I thought it would be like a factorial thing. So I'm messing up the maths, not getting it right. Eventually I cracked it. And I thought, well, this will just be a bit funny. because, you know, a tabloid has done a survey about threesomes. I just go maths on it. So I got there, took a picture of the equations and the drawings with the faces, which didn't have the glasses in, like little bits like that all got added. So it's just faces, just maths, took pictures of it, showed it on the screen and did it. And then, because the thing about that little bit of material, and the reason why I picked it for this is I like it because it's just very me. It's nerdier than it needs to be. It's, you know, childish when it comes to sex stuff. And I was like, that's the perfect mix. And yeah, so I did it a couple of weeks at the topical thing. And as soon as the news story's out the window, then I stopped doing it. And then I brought it back just because I thought, I reckon I could do this on stage. And loads of my material goes like this. I write it about a news story. And then later I'm thinking, well, I can rewrite it about me and then bring it back. And I brought it back, worked on it a bit. By then I'd had the letter. So I'd added all that bit into it. And a lot of it was just like working out which bit gets laughs. There's no laughs on this equation, so you'd better have a punchline, or, you know, when you're drawing the faces, do so. There's one version of a book where I've got someone with cross eyes. I can't remember if that's the book that's got it in. And even if you don't point it out, you can end up entertaining someone if they spot it. And then what happened was Harvey Weinstein came along, and I wanted to do a bit about that. And so I wrote a bit about, you know, getting caught up in sex scandals. So there's a whole bit that goes before it, which is Harvey Weinstein-ish. And the resolution is, now that I'm famous, which is a joke in itself, which I know. Then
me.
No. I'm definitely sufficiently unfamous enough to get a laugh when I say, now that I'm famous.
I'm sorry. I was only laughing to be polite, but you are famous.
But that's how it works. It's almost like, as a character on stage, I'm pretending I'm more famous than I am. But I've really analysed like sex scandals and the threat to my career. So that's how the front bit was added on last.
So the front bit we didn't see that, and obviously if we want to see that, we'll go and see you live.
If it ever happens again. I mean, I don't even know if I'd be doing that these days because I keep churning material around. But the joke about having sex with myself is the end of the not getting caught in, you know, sex scandal territory.
Oh, right. So that was written. So yeah. So I was right. The maths bit was written separately before that bit. But it's so intricate that you said, "Oh, I just did it on the tube. I just thought of it on the tube on the way to a gig," which is amazing. But when you got to the gig and you like tried to test it out and stuff like that, I'm assuming that's where you tested it out. Like, to start with. I'm assuming it wasn't like that, like, because that's really. It wasn't as. I mean, that was really slick. But when you did it for the first time, what was it like when you first did it? Like, how did it evolve? I guess I'm talking specifically about the maths bit, because I feel like that bit is so intricate that must have taken a while, no?
I see what you mean.
Very
no, the bit that evolved was the comedy. The first time I did it, it was probably more like a math lecture, but like the inherent joke was still there of like, this guy's taking it too far about maths, but all the little additional bits to kind of keep the laughs bumping along, they weren't there. So it probably didn't have a lot of laughs until it started to get too much, because that's another one of the things I like about it. There's not lots of material that I've got that is about the performance, about kind of going on too far. I'm often not brave enough to do a gag that you've got to be really into before it starts paying off.
Yeah, I know how you feel.
Yeah, but it was definitely one of those. So it's probably just maths. The audience is quiet, a bit more maths. The audience is quiet. They're thinking, he's still doing this. And by the time I'm turning it into a quadratic equation, then they're getting the actual joke. So I added loads of little bits with the drawings and whatever to try and keep it funny all the way through. But in a Rain Man style, the maths hasn't changed since I got off that tube. So in that half-hour tube journey, did the maths and that's it. Them's the facts.
You worked out the maths. Bloody hell, you're quick at maths, aren't you? What did you add in that made it funnier as you went along?
The bits like the glasses, when I started doing it on a book, so I could do it at normal gigs, then books I keep losing them and I keep breaking them. That was probably the last time I used that book. You see the front cover was falling off.
Yeah.
And every time I have to redraw one, it's a chance for me to think, I could add in So like the glasses were added in just because I had to draw another book, and the eyes and the wobbly face. Sorry, the mouth doing this on one of them. Again, I can't remember if that's the one that had it because I didn't really see the thing.
No, I don't think there was a wobbly mouth on this one.
Yeah, and it's often in that fourth one when they're doing the foursome. There are some bits that I don't even point out. You'll have like sometimes it's the eyes are weird, or sometimes the mouth looks worried. And I love the idea of drawing a foursome, and one of them is clearly not into it. But then I don't necessarily mention it because I like the idea of delivering more, like burying in jokes that not everyone's going to get.
Oh, that's so interesting. So if the audience go back now, they might see even extra jokes added in, like someone looking really worried that they're about to have a foursome. Which I get.
Could be. I think that it might have been in that book. Yeah, I can't remember which one, but I kept adding into all the books, and that is one of my favorite things I love doing on stage. Is it's often you do a joke so that everyone can laugh, but I always like the little tagline that not everyone's going to get.
Yeah.
And I suppose I shouldn't. I should want everyone to laugh all the time, but it's just such a delight knowing that if you can just hear a couple of people get that extra line at the back, you think they're walking away with some extra product that no one else got. I like that.
So okay, so it basically evolved over time, like, and you just added in bits that you thought were going to be funny amongst the sort of equations that were the maths.
Yeah. And another thing I always end up developing more, because I'm never good at writing this right at the start, is the stupid voices. Like the idea of some blokes not wanting to touch other blokes would be a line that I had. And then after doing it for a while, I'd realize, oh, if I act it out more, I'm just in general not good at, I'm a better writer than an actor. So I'll write a bit and I think that's funny and don't realize I'm totally underselling it because all it needs is the Essexy voice that just like personifies the horrible manliness I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily describing it well enough in words, but if you just go, you get it straight away. And I should do more of that because I keep forgetting to do it, keep forgetting to perform.
But so yeah, you added that bit. So for example, with that bit where you added in the act out, because that's still quite a good line before it, which is about, some men just don't say they don't want to touch other women. Other men. Did that like just get kind of like not loads of laughs, but a bit of laugh, and then you thought, oh, I'll add in the act out?
No, that line was not really getting much. I think people were still at that moment raising an eyebrow, thinking, "Where the hell's this going?" So they're less likely to just laugh at observations. And it was having the function of simply setting up the next equation. So the bit where I'd subtract the man-to-man sex acts, that was the payoff. So you build the tension, but the build-up line was doing nothing, whereas I could get a laugh out of it by doing the voice. And the great thing I've learned about doing this stuff, and I don't want to become a prop comedian, but the great thing about having books is that you get to control the timing. So you can wait as long as you want, and then as you turn the page, that's the reveal. You actually start to get comedy timing and page turning.
But yeah, you were talking about using a prop. Was that like the first time? I've never seen you just usually just got the mic or whatever. Never seen you use a prop before. But is that something that just for this particular bit that you do? And
I think for the club set version of it, it's one of the few times I've done anything where I need to take something on stage. I think when I started, there was a front page to a newspaper that I used for some gags. But the book is the only one. But because it's one of those things that came from the Tuesday night topical things where we had the TV screen next to us. So you just basically put the pictures on PowerPoint, flip through them and do the punchlines. And the only reason I did that is because it was impossible to learn all the material that you'd just written on the tube. Cool. Whereas if you have the headline of the story, you press next and you go, doing jokes about this. So there were loads of, I got really used to having that prop, that visual aid of something to work with what I'm saying. So I ended up having to think of how could I get that on stage? And that's why I ended up with a book. And these days, I've got a much bigger book as well. Don't want to show off, but that was just A4. Now I'm packing an A3.
Wow, your book has grown along with your success. That's bloody.
I'm earning A3 book money now, so. Yeah.
So
I was before coronavirus.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That you invested in a book prematurely. Steve.
Yeah, a book that no one can see now. Great, money well spent.
Do you still do that? I mean, obviously, we're in coronavirus, but before BC, that's before coronavirus. In case you didn't work it out, yeah. See, you can do maths, but you know, might not be able to work that out. BC, are you still doing that bit?
I think, I mean, I still do it every so often, and the A4 book is in the boot of the car. So if I turn up to a gig and I'm like, I want to do that tonight, it's always there, ready for me.
Okay.
But I don't think I did it like halfway through last year. So after last year's Edinburgh, I don't think I've done it again since. Just because, I don't know, when you come back from Edinburgh, you've got more material. So instead of doing the stuff I was doing before, I'd be like, oh, let's get into more. And actually, you know, there were more things to do jokes about. By the time this year came around, we were doing coronavirus jokes. For those back in January, thinking, oh, these are going to be great jokes. And then it ends our careers. So yeah, I still do it. And I do it often enough so that whenever I do it, I know what I'm doing. Because it's a kind of bit of material where you don't want to get lost halfway through.
I know.
So.
And is that now in a state where, like, obviously all bits are constantly evolving. Like, they surely don't stop evolving if you're a comic. But is that now kind of not finished, but kind of where you want it to be? Or would you even now, watching it back, think, oh, I'd do that a bit differently, or I'd add something here, or I'd do something different the next time I did it?
Yeah, I think it's always evolving and always growing, because you never know. You can always think of something funny to add into something. Plus, it depends what the reason I'm doing that material is. So it started out just about a survey, then it was about just me talking about it. Then Weinstein comes along, so it's about celebrity sex scandals. All it takes is for another good reason for it to be like added on to a bit. Because that's the other thing that's really good. If you pick a topic, I mean, I want some jokes about this. And it's nice to have some topical jokes, but you need to know you're going to land on something solid afterwards. So if you can find a reason to pull back in something that works. So lots of topical bits I do start out with, oh, this guy's doing this thing, or this is in the news, joke, that's not that great. And then isn't it a bit like threesomes? And so, yeah, I'll keep using it whenever I need to fit it to make the set work.
But it's interesting that you should say that you kind of write for your stand-up. It could actually have come from other things that you were writing. So like the topical stuff that then you kind of sort of make non-topical, or kind of like take out the topical bits, if you like, in order for it to work always. Is that kind of what you do for your stand-up?
Yeah, definitely. And that's one of the things I like about having a job, when I had one, of writing topical stuff, is that you churn out so much. And if your brain can either remember how to write that bit again on another topic, or if it remembers, oh, I've got that bit. So there are loads of bits that I've done, you know, for radio sketches or whatever, that I can then do on stage. And because we used to do the Tuesday topical things, that stopped. And then more recently, I've been turning up to new act nights and new material nights on Mondays and Tuesdays. And then I'd just pick the sketches from last week, the radio sketches, just rewrite them as stand-up, and then go and see if they were actually funny or not, which I realise I should have done it the other way around, really. I should have tested material on stage first. But you're up against it when you've got to do sketches. You write it, produce it. Yeah. It's
topical. That's the thing. You have to do it at the time. But what is your writing style like? So generally, for this bit, you said that you were on the tube and it was like an article that triggered the idea in your head for a topical idea that then you decided it could be kind of like generalized as a kind of idea for stand-up. But generally, how do you write? Like, do you sit down and write, or does it happen like it did with that one where you're just on the tube and then you just like jot something down and then try it out? Or do you properly sit down and go, I'm gonna choose a topic, I'm gonna write on this topic? Or does it just come into your head?
I try and write in as many different ways as possible, because I think you then do different jokes. And even just the place. So I do write at home. I've got a desk in this room, plus there's a desk in the main like office part of it. So if I've been writing for too long in one of the places, I'll just move and sit somewhere else. If I've been writing for a while, I've got more to do, I'll go to a coffee shop. So because I think when you're in a different place, it's not even that I think as if this is my theory. There is this research that we all have different characters within ourselves that are brought out by different surroundings. So if you can change your environment, you can change version of you that you are. And I think that then means that I've got 6 different characters who can all be writers rather than just me having to do all the work. So I try and be doing it. Like if I go for a run, I'll think about stuff, and they're different thoughts than if I'm in a coffee shop or if I'm sat at home desperately trying to not just look at stuff on the internet. So like the more characters and the more places I can be in, the different jokes I'll write about a topic, and hopefully some of them will be funny. So I think that's my technique.
For some comedians, they don't sit down and force themselves to write. And for me, it's like I have in the past like sat down and like forced myself to write, and things do come out. Actually, it's very hard because you're like, oh, this is a load of shit, but then you get something good to come out. And sometimes ideas will just, but for some other comedians, they don't write like that. They'll just wait for ideas to come. But do you give yourself a topic? Say, okay, I've got to write today about, I don't know, Boris Johnson's stupid speech. And I'm just going to sit down and I'm going to, wherever it may be, I'm just going to write it. Do you do that, or do you wait for the ideas to come whilst you're jogging or whatever?
No, I try and do the sit down and pick a topic and think, okay, I should have some jokes on this, so let's write some jokes on this. And I've got to the stage now where I don't mind writing shit, because I know that you've got to get that out of you and throw it away before you can have better stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
But I suppose if you wait for the inspiration, you'll end up just getting the nuggets that are so good that you don't have shit ideas. But if I'm brutally honest, there's one thing that I like about doing topical stuff is that it requires doing lots of okay jokes.
Yeah.
And I'm more comfortable at that than doing a few brilliant ones.
Yeah, I guess. Well, no, I think all your jokes are brilliant.
Thank you. But
I know what you mean. Maybe if it's topical and in the moment, you can like get away with more. You can do it quicker. You can do it quicker. Like that bit, if you'd have written that in a day, I would have been surprised. How long did it take you to write? Well, actually, you did do it in kind of half an hour on the way to the tube. But how long did it take you to get it from that day to say there that we saw? How long approximately did it take you?
Yeah, months and months. Yes, I mean the core was just thinking, oh, I wonder what the equation is, and half an hour later, oh, that's the equation. And then the actual comedy side of it was months and months doing it in different audiences, and as I say, stupidly doing it to the wrong audiences for ages, picking the ones where I thought these look like A-level maths people, and they didn't laugh as much as like a proper club gig weekend. I wasn't doing it on the weekends for a while. Do you know what I mean? I was doing it on the weekday ones because people aren't as drunk. But I then switched it around. When you get hens and stags in, and there's nothing better. There's a gig in Bristol that I do that's always got hen nights and stag nights in it, and you just think this is someone's like big day coming up soon. They're on their hen night, and some guy on stage is doing maths. What the hell? But it then becomes more ridiculous, and that's part of the laugh.
Yeah, well, the ridiculous. Yeah, I think it's brilliant, but the ridiculousness of like you going like, "Am I in the wrong gig?" And like
that would have been one of the bits that was added later, because it was then when I was deliberately doing it to gigs where everyone would be like, "What the hell?" As soon as you can spot enough faces looking like that, that's the time to say, "Am I in the wrong gig?"
Oh, so you added that on because that actually happened with people going. And you said, and it got a laugh, and you thought, I'll keep that in.
Yeah, and a lot of the little changes would have been randomly saying something for no good reason because I'm on stage at a gig, and then it gets a laugh, and I think, oh, I'll keep doing that. So a lot of it was just not a lot of effort, just takes a lot of time doing gigs, and just randomly say stuff because I don't really script things very well. I just remember the general point and rewrite it on stage every time, in a sense.
So well, that's how I write as well. I kind of write on stage and just, so you don't write like bullet points or anything like that before you're about to go up with bits, with new bits maybe.
Well, yeah, when I used to do the topical evenings, so I did actually end up writing out absolutely every word of it, but never learnt it. I remember this from school, like revising for exams, one of the best ways to do was to actually write down it. Or say it out loud, write it down, or say it out loud, because then you remember writing it rather than memorize all the words.
Yeah.
So I would write it out word for word, but I wouldn't deliver it like that, and I'd never look back at it ever again. It was just the process of writing.
Oh, just so it's in your brain.
Yeah. and that way you've got all the words out once. So you've got them in a roughly the right order, and your brain should know how to roughly reproduce them. I never want to get it word perfect because it'll start to be boring.
Exactly.
But then no, I just kind of, they're not even bullet points. I'll just write down the topic. So I'll write down, if I'm doing a gig and I've decided to do that, if I am making a list of what I'm going to do, it will just be like dash sex maths, and then I know I'm doing sex maths.
Okay, so we're coming to an end now of this excellent podcast. I do say so myself. So I want to end with 2 questions.
Yep.
One question is, describe your style in about 1 sentence, if you can.
Yeah. I would say it is, I mean, observational and topical are definitely 2 good words, 2 good like adjectives to put in that sentence.
Yeah. Observation.
And then deceptively friendly, I think, is another thing that I think I do on stage. I mean, I look like kind of, you know, every guy, normal kind of person. Oh, here's some thoughts. But then that's a great way of hiding some rather barbed material.
Oh, that's clever. Yeah. Okay, good. Excellent. And finally, what comedians, if any, inspire you?
Yeah, it's a terrible question, isn't it? I hate that question so much. It's either none or all. Do you know what I mean? I'm not sure which side of the fence I sit on today. Actually, today it's probably more of an all, because I love watching comedy. Even if I'm at a gig and you see some new person absolutely dying on their ass, I absolutely love it, because there's always stuff to learn. And unless it's going really badly, where you think that they're going to have problems afterwards. But you know, we've all died. So bad comedy I love, good comedy I love. The topical side of me, actually no, so the joke writing side of me, I think, comes from being a big fan of the Marx Brothers when I was like 12. I remember they put the films on Channel 4 for some reason, and I watched them all and was like, oh my God. And it's probably that age where I first started thinking, why is it that words in a certain order do something?
Yeah.
You know, it's bizarre. It doesn't really make any sense. But if you get just words and you put them in the right sentence, at the end of it, someone will laugh.
Yeah.
And so it probably started my career trying to work out how the hell that works. For energy and speed of thought, Robin Williams, he went through a big phase of watching all his stuff. But in general, absolutely I'll tell you what, another one, I've been recently watching stuff of hers on YouTube. Ellen DeGeneres doing stand-up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because like the lack of force that she puts into delivery somehow makes the jokes be delivered more forcefully. It's bizarre. It's just so kind of calm and like, here's a thing, but it just, so I'm going through a phase of loving that. But I like the fact that my favorite comedian will change all the time. Otherwise you're just static. So, you know, there's always going to be new stuff.
That's a good answer. A diplomatic answer.
Well, thank you.
But also a good answer. But okay, well, thank you. Now, for those at home who want to see more of you, where can they find you, and what are you doing?
Very good questions. So at the moment, the iPlayer still has the four most recent MASH reports. So if you want to see me in this room, but when it was turned into a TV studio, finally I get this room back. It's really nice. So they're still on the iPlayer, the MASH report. I'm doing a show every Tuesday and Thursday at 9 o'clock online called Comics in Quarantine Solving Problems, which is like just, I spend the day writing topical stuff. Me and Eric McElroy just do topical material at each other, and then that's it. We click stop. And I'm really enjoying it, which is bizarre. And that's it, because I don't do anything else now. Stand-up stopped, and thanks to coronavirus, the radio got rid of me. So, yeah, I'll be down the Dole office if you need to see me.
What about Insta? Are you on Twitter?
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, you forgot the Twitter, didn't you?
Yeah, forgot the Twitter. So I'm at Mr. Stephen Allen on Twitter and Instagram and MySpace. I don't know if you could still find me. The streaming show, we're actually, because I'm a nerd, as you correctly pointed out, I'm working out how to do some IT.
Yeah, sorry.
No, there's nothing wrong with being a nerd. It's our word.
Exactly.
And we're going to try and see if we can stream on MySpace, for no good reason. No one's going to watch it, but it's probably doable. We might have to put a camera in front of a laptop or something. We're going to bloody make it happen.
It's dead, MySpace, isn't it?
No, it's still a thing. And
No, it's
if you
not.
click send me my password again, you can log back into it.
No, I don't
So,
believe you.
yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And all the pictures of me on there just have way more hair and glasses, because I used to wear glasses as well. So,
Did you?
yeah.
So MySpace, okay. And when did you say when the live streaming was of your show?
Yeah. At the moment, Tuesday and Thursday, 9:00. And because I'm enjoying it so much, I think when stand-up comedy comes back, we're going to keep hopefully doing it on the Tuesdays.
You should.
It'll come back.
And where are you streaming that on to?
That goes absolutely flipping everywhere. So it's on direct to Twitter, on Facebook, on Twitch, on Mixer, on Mob Crush, on there's more.
Grindr.
It's probably on Grindr. Genuinely, I've worked out how to get us on OnlyFans. Now, I don't know if you know what OnlyFans is, but
I know what OnlyFans is because I saw a BBC documentary on it last week. And for those at home, OnlyFans is, you explain it.
Yeah, at the moment, it's for people to subscribe and get naughty videos by people, but the website doesn't specify that you've got to do naughty stuff. So we could actually stream to OnlyFans.
Oh, that's
It's going to be a shock for some bloke sat there with a box of tissues going, oh, what's this one? And it's just this face.
That's brilliant. You might find that some people do actually get turned on by seeing you and Eric do topical jokes. I mean,
yeah, if they pay, we'll take it.
Exactly. Okay, brilliant. Well, that's the end of our podcast. So thank you, Steve and Alan, for showing me your bits.
Thanks very much. Hope you enjoyed them.
Thank you, I did. Bye.
Oh, show me your bits.